Okay, we are live here, SampleServe Masterclass Wednesdays. How you doing? Thank you for joining us this afternoon or at a later time. I am Joshua Paul. I'm product director, product manager at SampleServe, and with me I have Russell Schindler, the founder and CEO of SampleServe. He's been in the groundwater industry for a long time, taken many samples in his life, and now he's the head of a sampling company, software company. Say hi, Russell.
Hey guys, how's it going?
So what we do on these Wednesdays is we bring on some experts from industries. We like to share tips and tricks within our app. Give you some ideas of what's coming out and some new features that we're releasing. And if you have any questions during this, just throw a comment in the comments. Even after this is over, we like to get the comments afterwards. And if you know anybody this would be helpful to, give this a share. So today we talk about our Sample ENV platform, and we usually talk about this on Wednesdays. We want to talk about today about the many different options in media that you can sample using the Sample ENV platform. Now, it's called Sample ENV because it's originally designed for environmental projects. But really, the process is very similar for a lot of other types of media that you're sampling. I know that like drinking water isn't necessarily like an environmental media, but it is a health and safety media. But the sampling process is very similar. So we want to go over all the different kinds of media that you can sample with the Sample ENV platform. And we have them listed here. So Russell, go over some of these lists and kind of describe the similarities and the differences in some of these media here.
Yeah. So we started in groundwater, right? I mean, I'm a geologist. I've been doing environmental work since I got out of college a very long time ago. And, I spent most of my world in career doing groundwater investigations, groundwater remediation, groundwater sampling. And so I'm very familiar with the groundwater sampling process. And so that's where we kind of started from. But obviously, as we got into this, people started asking us, hey, can you do surface water? I'm like, well, yeah, actually, it's not that much different. Obviously, there's different, less data really most of the time when you're doing groundwater. But so we just started kind of like creating I wouldn't call them necessarily different pathways, but different kind of forms and functionality. And really, it's going to pop up. Like if you're doing soil sampling, it's going to be different questions and different flow path for the data than if you're doing groundwater sampling. So that's kind of how we kind of evolved. It literally went in almost in the order that you're talking about, right there on the list: groundwater, surface water, soil vapors. Back when I started SampleServe, like you just didn't do soil vapor, and now like soil vapor is a big thing. And so, and then, people are like, hey, can we do this for drinking water and wastewater? Cannabis, as they legalize cannabis across the country, there are more options for, sampling cannabis and actually legal requirements for testing both the product and like any things that they manufacture out of cannabis, like gummies and brownies and stuff like that. And then asbestos is another item. It's under the and more category where, a lot of people are sampling asbestos. That's been going on a long time. Just really facilitates all that. And then crime scene is actually the latest one, right? We're getting one of the things I would do when I would do a presentation in order to explain the chain of custody process. It was just real simple to just say, hey, when you're collecting an environmental sample, you have to treat it very similar to evidence at a crime scene. Document how you got it, all the chain of custody, all the way to the laboratory. And then, people started going like, well, could you do a crime scene? I'm like, well, we probably could. And so we're kind of getting into that area now as well.
So I want to go over this data workflow and the process of which the data flows in our platform here. And it's all samples that you have to collect kind of go in the same flow regardless of what you're collecting. So the project management tool that we have, essentially it doesn't matter what you're collecting or sampling, you still have to decide what you want to sample and where you want to sample, who you want to sample, or what who's going to be doing the sampling and what kind of laboratory you're going to be using. And the project management tool handles all of that information.
So yeah, and you bring up a key point. Like a lot of environmental sampling is routine. It's not a one-off. There are times where you're just going to sample one time and you're done, right? So you don't have to worry about that cycle of over and over again. But in groundwater, surface water, drinking water, wastewater, it's like you're never done, right? It's always going to keep going. Landfill's another thing. You may want to adjust things slightly from event to event, but it's usually repeated. So we've built in that repeatability where you don't have to create everything from scratch each time. You can just copy and paste last quarter to this quarter, and adjust it if you need to after you've copied and pasted it. So it's really designed to handle that routine sampling, and just it created all kinds of efficiencies so that you're not starting over each time you create a new sampling event.
Right. Yeah. So the process, regardless of what you're sampling, is going to be similar in all these aspects. You're going to want to push that work scope into a mobile field app where you can then collect the data digitally, which is what essentially basically our whole premise of what we're doing here is digital data collection from start to finish, keeping everything
and it's going to be customized based on the type of
media that you select.
Media you're doing, right? Your report output is going to be different for different things.
Yeah, and the project management tool has those different options built into it. When you're creating a new project or a new workspace to hold all your projects, you can select the media that you're going to be working with. You can also add them later on if you decide that, say, hey, I do mostly groundwater, but later on I might decide, we're going to do some soil vapors and just soil testing, and you can add that as a special media. And the project management tool, it'll understand what you're doing, so it'll change some of the workflows in the mobile field app when you're collecting data automatically.
Yeah, and there's custom forms that you can create. So if you're out there at a project and you're doing groundwater sampling, but you've got a remediation system that's running as well, you can create, and you need to collect some pressure readings or flow rates or something off of that system, and you can actually build that custom form right into that event and then collect that data on that project through the same tablet, same project. That becomes part of the whole record for that sampling event. So we've really tried to make it so that you don't have to have separate mechanisms for separate data collection needs on that sampling event. Right. And even if you wanted to do soil, you're going to go out and collect a couple soil samples. You're going to set those up under soil, and then you're going to add groundwater, and then maybe you've got some surface water you're doing as well. So you can have them all kind of like in one project, but the separate events kind of, when you're doing soil sampling, it's going to ask you the soil questions. You're doing surface water, it's going to be surface water questions.
Yeah. Yeah. So depending on the media, it'll have pre-built in forms that are already there, because like if you're doing groundwater, we already know that you're going to be taking, connectivity ratings or, oxygen ratings,
or depth of water, or
basic stuff that we already know you're most likely going to be collecting. But these custom forms are great for collecting the things that are, very specific to what you're doing, your company wants to collect, and all this data is easily read and exported and shared after it's collected.
And reported on if you want to.
Yeah, so that's the project management tool. Skipping over to in the field, what we differ from a lot of other digital data collection platforms, and I think we're the only people that are doing this, is we're printing sample bottle labels in the field at the time of sampling. So that you don't have to go out with a big sheet of labels. You're not writing your name because it's all done on the platform and the application, and you're not mixing up pre-printed labels and putting them on the wrong bottles. So this is going to be a very accurate way of labeling your bottles, and these are customizable too, in the sense that if you're doing like a soil vapor sampling, you're going to have to have different types of information on that label.
Like start and stop times.
Yeah.
So the label format is going to be dependent on which media you're sampling as well. So it's all, you just enter it into the tablet and it just prints out on the label. Right. In the lab, it plays a role in this as well, which we should probably cover a little bit. So some labs, if you're doing a metals, right, it's going to be a 125 poly, with nitric acid in it. Other labs want a 250 mil poly, right? So they actually get to set the size of the bottle and the type of bottle in their lab menu, which you're going to pull directly from. So when you print this thing out, it's going to say, the size of the bottle, the preservative that's in the bottle, that the lab had spec'd out on their menu of analytical parameters. So there's no, you're not like going like, all right, well, the label says 250 and I only have a 125. What do I do? It's going to be based on whatever the lab said. So
yeah, that's one of the nice aspects of keeping everybody on the same page. The one platform where everybody can control and manipulate the data and keep everybody on the same playing.
And one thing you can tell about this label as well is you can actually read it, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. You can read the handwriting on there.
If I had handwritten this label, you wouldn't be able to read it.
Right. And then here's our, this is kind of what everything is based off of. Right here, what we started out doing was this digital chain of custody, where it gets generated automatically and sent digitally to anybody that you need to send it to right after you're done sampling. So Russell, go over this.
So yeah, I actually came up with this years ago. I had a client who actually challenged me to like, what you need to do? You need to figure out a way to do this digitally. And, so I accepted the challenge, and it took me a couple of months to really work it out, and then even more months to build it out. But we figured it out, and it's we've got 2 issued patents on our digital chain of custody, and it's really pretty slick. It's actually way better than paper because we know with certainty the who, the where, and the when of every sample collected. It's an immutable database, so you can't alter the record. We know we collect a GPS, we collect a date and time stamp, and it's printed and embedded into the data for that particular location. So you can't, say you were one place and collected somewhere else. So it's actually saved a lot of field techs from a lot of grief because, whenever data comes back unexpectedly, the first thing they do is blame the field tech, right? They go, oh, I think you sampled the wrong location. Well, we can actually pull up the data and go, when he printed this label for, MW7, he was standing 6 feet away from the location, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now the field tech can go, see, I was there. That put and the only label he has at the time of that sampling is the label for MW7. So it's logical that he put that label on at that time. He did not sample the wrong location. And so there's been many instances of the field techs, asking us for the data where they were. Mm-hmm. We provide it, and they're like, yeah, see, I was at the right spot. Now we actually have it so they can just download it, and they don't even have to ask us for it. They can just download it, and they can tell and prove that they were at the right location when they collected that particular sample, and, vice versa. So it's happened many times, and, field techs love it. So.
And that's why this works so good with things like crime scene investigation, because right now, we've talking to a lot of, sheriff departments and people that are collecting evidence, and they're doing it all on paper right now.
Yeah.
And this is a immutable, data that you can really prove when, where, and how, and who.
Well, and there's no transcription, right? The data just moves digitally to their reports, and they don't have to worry about typing the wrong date on something.
Right.
And then they get into court and they're like,
oops,
how could you collect this sample, this evidence a day before the murder occurred?
Exactly.
It's like, I just typed the wrong date. That's all.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And then murderers go free.
Right. Yeah. So.
And so the next thing is after it goes through the lab, the laboratory has their own app where they can accept all the sample data that comes in digitally. And then when we can, depending on the media type, some media doesn't necessarily need very detailed reporting, like drinking water doesn't, you can do that with spreadsheets, but groundwater, you're going to need something more, that has more visual cues and more detailed representation of where the contamination is and where it's going.
Yep.
And that's where we excel with our graphic report graphic generator, where you can easily make box maps, isochemical contours, any kind of graph, tables pretty easily once you get that lab data uploaded back onto the platform.
Yeah. So, so if you want to, if you're doing groundwater, we can do groundwater flow maps very easily. Soil obviously is not going to do a soil flow map, but you may need an isochemical contour map showing you the area of, contamination, based on what chemical you want to look at. And so the graphic output is based on, what we know about what people are going to be using, or, reporting on the particular media that they're collecting.
And yeah, some, like I said before, some, depending on the media, you can either, we can do just detailed, word reports, that are either in a table or, in a PDF format, and we do have custom reports that are generated depending on either geographic location. Like, let's say if you're in Minnesota and you want to report to the state of Minnesota, we have a customized report that goes out digitally to the state that is in the format that they like. Depending on like if you're in Texas doing drinking water, we have a customized report that gets printed out for regulators that are specific to what they need. So we can always customize these reports depending on either which regulator you're talking to or what your client is expecting. So this is always something that's evolving depending on what people need.
And it all happens way faster than the old methods, right? So it happens within minutes versus, if you're trying to get data into the state of Minnesota, the old methods and the way they had it was like a cumbersome process. It would take you a long time. And now it can be done just in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, it was a lot of repetitive data entry where the company wants you to put all of the data in their own, database over here, but then the state also wants that same data in a different type of format over here. Yeah. So you're kind of entering data twice, and then, it doesn't work out very well. With us, it's just one click of a button, you got it, boom, send it to the state, send it up, upload it to your database at the same time.
Yeah.
So, SampleServe works well. We like to say these are some of the things that, a lot of people are using us for. We got, due diligence phase 2, soil sampling, remediation systems. So vapor sampling, surface water, wastewater, sediment sampling, air sampling. And there's a lot more that we didn't list here, but it's growing every day in interest because really when it comes to sampling in general, it's kind of still paper based. So, Russell, what do you think is the future for, for who's going to be getting into digital data collection more often? Do you think I feel like it's drinking water, like state drinking water sites, and especially wastewater. A lot of the stuff that requires repetitive sampling that happens often, and media that requires a lot of communication between, either admins up at the top deciding what's getting sampled. They need to communicate to, this work scope and what needs to happen to a lot of people every day, very often. And that's where this excels.
Yep. So like wastewater plants, right? It's a continuous flow. It doesn't shut down on the weekends. They don't take holidays off, right? Because everyone's using their household facilities constantly. So, so they have to, test constantly. They're collecting manual samples. They're going around with clipboards, taking pH readings, and it's just a big manual process right now. So now they can do the exact same thing on a tablet. They're also using, if they're just looking for pH, they're using, remote sensors that'll send the data in. But sometimes they have to physically go out and collect some samples, and they've got laboratories that do some tests within their facility. They've got some samples that need to go out to a third-party laboratory. So, and they're doing these like per shift or per day. So there's a lot of scheduling problems and just making sure that everything's being done. If they put that into our platform, it literally just organizes it. On your shift, here's what you got to collect. You use that tablet, go out, collect the data, collect the samples, print the labels, get everything organized. And it really just kind of dumbs it down for people. And they don't have all these forms and then have to go back to the office and type it in.
Right.
It ships that data right to where it needs to be. instantly. So
Yeah.
it just saves people a lot of time and a lot of repetitive data entry work.
And it's all in one platform. You know, we have a drinking water program going on in a very large state that's it has, you know, upwards of 50, 60 samplers going out multiple times a week. And all this data is being communicated, you know, pretty much automatically to, you know, everybody involved. So it's just
in real time,
automated process where everybody knows what they have to do, and everybody you know, is on the same page, and everything just gets done a lot faster and easier as they're using multiple chains of communication. Instead, it's all on one platform.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to you know, thinking about using digital data collection for, you know, your sampling process, and you want to look more into us, we have a virtual demo on our website, SampleServe.com. You can see it right in the top menu there, and it's about 6 videos, about 3 or 4 minutes long, and it takes you through each process in our data chain when you collection when in the workflow. So you can watch, you know, whichever parts you want to watch, and if you'd like a real live demo, there's the option there too. So I suggest you go on there, watch some videos, you know, give this a share to anybody you think this would be helpful to, and you know, reach out to us at any time, and you know, we can get you started pretty easily.
Yep, happy to do a live demo anytime. So
yeah. So all right, Russell, that's our 20-minute mark here. We're gonna end it there. And look out for next week's masterclass. And thank you guys for joining us. Have a good one.
All right. See ya.